Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping accounting firms achieve success. If you're an accounting firm owner who wants to learn how to provide virtual CFO services, then this podcast is for you.
Hello, welcome to today's podcast. Once again, you have Jamie Nau and Adam Hale here again from Summit CPA, and today we have a special guest, Justin Hatch from Reach Reporting, and we're going to talk about dashboarding and financial statements. So this is a change that Summit CPA has made over the last year, and I would venture to guess this is probably one of the most impactful changes we've made. So we wanted to bring Justin on to kind of talk about his company, but also we'll go into some of the details of the changes we made and what a great impact it's made for our clients and our employees. So Justin, you want to start us off just with a quick introduction to yourself and your company so the listeners know more?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm Justin Hatch. As Jamie mentioned, I started Reach Reporting about, actually I just looked this morning. It's five years and 6 months ago. Back in 2015, and we started it as a little bit different organization to what we have now. Same team, but we started it really focusing on the financials for small businesses, just specifically, not at all in any way targeting their advisors, not providing it to their bookkeepers, their accountants in any way, but providing it simply to the business and thinking we could provide metrics. And with the advancements of technology, we could provide these KPIs that would provide them such amazing insights that, they would be able to become billionaires overnight, right? And
of course, that's all they needed. That was the missing.
Right. That was the best part. And if we could provide that, we were going to be billionaires overnight. And so, we built and we built and we built. And interestingly, we found that not only was that not our target audience, I mean, indirectly it was, but directly it wasn't. Because a lot of times the smaller businesses, the startups, they feel like they already know everything. And they already have all of the insights. They already have all of the knowledge. And they don't want it. They don't want somebody to tell you. And additionally, they can't afford this software. They can't. They got to be thinking lean and mean. And so what we noticed over time is that we had this audience that kept coming back to us. And that was these accountants that were phenomenally professional. And they were so skilled in their trade. And they had this series of clients that they were trying to provide these similar ratios and metrics, but with that custom touch. And it didn't take us getting hit in the head that many times to realize that this was the market we needed to be working in. And so we completely revised the software. We changed the name and everything, and that's kind of where it's gone.
Yeah, from our side, it's funny how you kind of evolved. I would say from like an accountant's perspective, what we find is that those clients, sometimes they have some really cool shiny tools, but then we don't usually find them very effective. Like you said, one, because we can't play with them and tell the right story. But the other side of things is like we get a lot of clients that come to us and we educate the clients on what the metrics are, but they don't know what to do with them. So it's like, cool, I have the information. Now, what do I do with it? So really, they need somebody like the advisor to like come in and help them with the storytelling aspect. So even if they had it, they don't really know what to do with it. And so that's probably partially the reasons why you were finding also that the advisors were coming back.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's 100% because so often they're getting a metric. What is it really? They're getting the statements out of QuickBooks, right? And so you get these like canned statements, and they're like, "Is this good? Are we good? Is this good? Are we?" And it's like, well, you need somebody. It's not like they need their handheld, and they don't. We're not condescending to them. We're not babysitting them, but we're just providing a professional analysis as accountants. And so what Reach does is it simply just enables them to bridge that gap easier. I mean, we don't come in. We that ship has sailed where we think we can come up with these magical metrics to make them billionaires. That ship sailed years ago. What we do now is we literally enable the person who can make them really successful. The person that is sitting up in that crow's nest, they can see the land far away, and they can really guide the ship to where it needs to go. They can also see the big waves coming. They can see these the scary things, and so that's what we enable. And I think that right there is the entire value of any metric. It's providing directives. It's providing drivers. It's saying to them, hey, what button do I need to push that if I push it as many times as possible or as hard as possible or whatever, that it's going to make me more profitable, more successful?
I think that's the benefit we found from reach reporting is that a lot, obviously with anything we do, we always take a couple of wrong turns. And so we've tried other tools out. And I think what really benefited us from reach is that we could make it look how we wanted it to look. It wasn't canned, and we were able to work on them. We were able to modify it so we could tell our clients that this is what they're looking for. This is the path you need to go down. And again, it's not always the same for every client. Some client, it might be one metric, and another one, it might be something completely different. But we wanted to make it adaptable. So I think that's the path that we went down. Adam, do you want to go down that path a little bit more and just kind of talk about the couple of steps we took in order to find reach reporting and kind of why it's so important for us?
Yeah, I mean, Justin emailed me like 100 times. I kept putting them in my spam folder. No, I can't remember how we were on this endless search. We didn't have we have our IT team is fantastic. And I know a lot of firms don't have that kind of resource.
I second that. Your IT team is fantastic.
So, I mean, that part's cool. But even at that, we still struggled because for a lot of this stuff, you have to be a developer. And so we wanted all this flexibility that these really advanced tools would give us. But even the advanced tools, they didn't really have like a slick or sexy, front end at all. They looked like our spreadsheets. So they didn't really look very cool either. So then whenever we'd find the slick looking stuff, I don't know, it was just one of those things where we wanted to be able to tinker. And then whenever I met, and then another big hang up that we had was the ability to actually turn it into a PDF. I know we were kind of getting away from PDFs, but at the end of the day, like sometimes the client just needs to be able to hand that stuff off to the bank or whomever.
Print it out, pass it out. Yeah.
So, I mean, even though we're not delivering that way, they still sometimes have to deliver that way. And I don't want to give like their banker access to all their dashboards with all their metrics all the time. So we wanted to be able to have that, and we weren't finding a solution for that. So whenever I met and talked to Justin and he showed me the tour, I mean, it looked amazing. I mean, it looked like something that I, of all people, could kind of play around with. Probably not still completely true, but close enough, as close as I'm going to get. So like Jake, who's our IT director, I was constantly handing him people for all kinds of different things. So that poor guy, he was like meeting people every other week for a long time. And I said, hey, well, just, here's another one. Check them out. See what you think. He came back and he's like, yep, I think that's the one we're going with. And I was like, what? I was surprised only because, he's come back and usually our meeting is like 20 minutes on. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is why it wouldn't work. I mean, I like this and I like this, but these are the 12 reasons why we can't go with them. And whenever he came back, he said, no, I think it's scalable. I think it's user-friendly. That because he was also to the point where we were using a different product and he was tired of being the IT support for every time somebody needed to just barely touch the product. So some of it was his own, selfish need to be like released from that process. And
I think that's the interesting part for me, Adam. I think is we started with Excel, right? So we started with Excel, where everybody was the IT guy, and of course the complaints from our team was if Excel breaks, 9 times out of 10 the file works, but if it breaks, I'm spending 10 hours to try to get it worked, and it just ruins my whole week. And now I'm behind on all my financial statements. So we knew Excel wasn't the option. So then we went to a more cookie cutter, but where it was pretty complex, where if there were issues, then we were waiting on our 2 IT people. And so again, we were still hitting way too many bumps. And then again, we found Reach, where it is a little bit the best of both worlds, where a lot of the small fixes, a lot of the customization it's easy enough for our accountants to do, for our CFOs to do. But occasionally, if it we don't want to have them break it as well. So are those things that are a little more complex that we need our IT department to help out with, but it's not killing them. And so that's an interesting path we've gone down.
One of the funny things that this could easily quickly transition from a startup to pump people up and get them excited about starting a business, because the funny thing was we spent 3 and change, 3 plus years just kicking against the pricks, so to speak. We literally everything we tried, it just didn't seem to quite connect. It didn't resonate. It wasn't working. And part of it was, again, the audience. Part of it was the fact that we didn't have the advisor in there with it. And that was a big part of it. But the other part of it was, there was just so many little things that we weren't quite providing. And so we spent all this time trying to make friends, and we couldn't make any friends no matter what we did. On the playground, we would bring candy for people. We would do whatever we could to make friends on the playground, and we couldn't do it. And looking back, hindsight 2020 cliche, right? But looking back, I'm so grateful for that opportunity because that changed everything about how we created the software. The software really was designed for small businesses, literally was designed to deliver a message to small businesses. And then we developed it. We added, in that additional 2 years, we developed it heavily to be able to meet the needs of big firms. And what we looked at is we said, is there a way that we could enable these CPAs to be the best storytellers out there? Because we know one thing we learned in those 3 years is that small businesses often have no idea what's happening in their business. Often they don't know what the P&L is trying to tell them. They don't even know what the balance sheet really does or any of its value. They certainly don't know what the cash flow statement is. That's like the bottom one that nobody really ever looks at anyway. They don't know what the value of that. It's just as well to look at the bank account it is to the cash flow statement. This is a major problem. So once we realized that if we can deliver a message in a way that is super, super interesting, that it's actually borderline captivating. Yeah, these are all my numbers. This is my business. I've been looking at this for years. And now you're telling the story to me in a way that I've never even seen before. And if we could figure out a way to do that, we figured that would be the game changer. That would be the thing that makes all the difference.
And, from my perspective, I think I'm a pretty good damn storyteller. So what I wanted was something that my team could put together fast and easy, that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel or hear Excel crashed or they're waiting 2 hours for something. I wanted something that my clients could tinker with, because our clients still like to tinker and have access. Oh, hey, you forgot to upload my financials or send them to me or whatever. They have access to it real time. I love the fact that I can send different report. I can send it to 8 different people on my client side instead of just a client, and then pay for each additional user. That always sucked. So that flexibility is super cool. And then I just wanted something that looked cool. I wanted, at the end of the day,
the best storybooks look good. It's a true story.
The optics matter, man. And
they do.
So whenever the client pulls it up, and as Jamie mentioned, we might, the story changes each time. So I might pull these 2 or these 3. And the cool thing is we've been assembling in a library of stuff. I mean, you have great templates that you put together, but then we've also been assembling a library, and we can pull that stuff in and out. And we might have a ton of different dashboards, but whenever we go to look at the books, if we hop in and we see, oh, this looks messy, we skip all the other stuff. We just go straight to where the mess is, and we're able to go down that rabbit hole a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes a world of difference, in terms of the storytelling, because we have all those metrics already built out, and we know how to funnel through them too. Which is
it's interesting too that a lot of the accountants we work with, they will have a dashboard for their client that is specifically designed for them to look at, for them as the accountant to look at. They don't ever share it with any of their clients, which I think is fascinating, because even us, we want to have the story told to us, but in a way that we understand. And that goes down to that, DIKW pyramid that we've talked about before. But it really, what level of understanding are we at? Whatever level that is, we want to have that that knowledge disseminated to us. I was sitting in front of a board, and I shared this. I think I shared this before, Adam. But I was sitting in front of this board of directors at my former company. I was their VP of business development. I was running this department of mechanical engineers, among a bunch of other things that we were doing. And we'd created all these phenomenal products. And so I go into this board meeting and I'm like, all right, they have the smartest people on earth in this board. I'm not even kidding.
I don't think Jamie was there, but
dude, he was probably on the phone.
I was listening.
But these guys were sitting there, and I mean, we have the CFO of NASA. We have guys that are running big investment firms. We have guys. I mean, these guys are phenomenally intelligent, and so I'm like, my ego, I'm scared spitless, right? I have like those little drops of sweat, up here on the brow, and I go into this meeting and I'm dropping every big word that I know, and I'm about 3 minutes in, and it was Ronald Spale that stopped me, and he said, he's the NASA dude, and he's like, Justin, can you give it to us in a way that we can just make some decisions off the information you're providing. I'm like, what? Like I don't understand.
All that cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were talking about flame impingement and rectification, and we were talking about all, like, you love this stuff. And they were like, we don't even know what those words mean. Like, you got to give it to us in a way that we're going to. And I'm like, the CFO of NASA doesn't know. And I'm sure he did. I'm sure he was probably just, trying to have me simplify it. But that's the lesson I learned is that if any time we disseminate information, anytime we provide information, no matter when, no matter where we are, no matter who we're talking to, we absolutely need to absorb complexity. We need to make the story simpler.
It's 100% true. I've had my whole career in finance and accounting, and I learned pretty early on what I've always said in any role is okay, because you'd have accountants coming and try to explain this really complex thing to you, and you're like, whoa, slow down, pretend like I'm my 10-year-old daughter, and explain this to me in that way. And I think that's the key to finance. Is there's really brilliant people in finance and accounting, but they can't get down to like the average person's level. And so I think that is super key. And I think that's what's great about us being able to build our own dashboards and financial statements. Is a lot of times business owners, they know their business inside and out, but when you start talking finance, people just get intimidated and they get confused, and they're like, well, wait. Let's slow down and talk about this in a different way. So, Justin, a lot of our companies that listen to this are a 2 to 3 person, 5 person accounting firm. And so, Adam mentioned we have a brilliant IT guy, Jake, but how would, if I'm a 3-person accounting firm and I'm interested in Reach reporting, what would that process look like to get it set up? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Reach is we've designed it to be really, really intuitive for when you connect the companies. So the very first thing when you get in there, it points you to how to connect a QuickBooks or Xero company, and then you can connect the company. And what we like is we like to absorb complexity, and we're serious about it. So as soon as you log in, as soon as that company is connected, we've already populated a whole series of dashboards and a whole series of reports for you. They're populated with the client's numbers. Like we have their financing. In fact, we also throw in a bunch of metrics that are just they're pretty high level metrics. I'll be honest, but they're still metrics that provide insight. We believe very strongly, just as a tangent, we believe very strongly in how to tell the story, and that a story needs to be told in a milk before meat fashion. We start with the simple stuff, and then you can get into the complex stuff. But so often when we receive a report, it's just all complex. And so we have to really buckle down to understand it. And so when a client will come in, or an accountant comes in, they will connect the client's QuickBooks or Xero company. Those reports are populated. And then I would encourage them to just go through each of those reports and start looking and saying, okay, what are these reports saying? What's the message that they're delivering? And most of the reports they're canned in such a way that you can literally go up to the top left, hit PDF, and it'll drop it right onto your desktop, and you can send it to your client. But I personally love just kind of combing through the numbers for the first time, looking at the trends, because it's so interesting. Even for accountants, it's interesting for us to see, oh, okay, this is a different way of looking at these numbers. I've been looking at it this way. This is now showing it in this trend, and it's comparing this ratio to this ratio on the same graph. That's really interesting. It's providing even me, the accountant, this deeper understanding of the business. And then, as you start to get into that, then really listening to the client. What's the client saying? What's the client not saying? Because that's sometimes just as informative as what they're saying. What are they not saying? So listen to those things to really understand where that client stands. Our egos want to protect us all the time. And so we try to, just like I did in that board meeting, we try to say all the big words that we know. we try to protect ourselves. And that's totally human, and that's totally amazing. But we have to recognize that as we're talking to our clients, to try to understand, okay, what are they saying? What do they really understand? And what do they really want? And then how do I provide reports that can deliver that?
I think that even from a beginning dashboard phase, like you said, you have to if you want to keep it industry agnostic, you got to start with the high level metrics anyway. But I really do think just the value in having something that's connected. QuickBooks reports are ugly. They just, again, I'm going back to the cuteness factor, but when people are paying you a lot of money for advisory stuff and you give them just like some canned piece of crap out of the accounting software, like, it's definitely a knock on your professionalism for sure. So those things just don't look that great. And in some instances, clients have never really seen those reports in QuickBooks anyway. You know what I mean? So they haven't even looked at their financials. So just being able to have a medium where they can log in and see a digital product, that you've kind of put together, even if it is just literally you've connected it and go, I think that's a huge win to be able to print it in a nice fashion and make it look good.
And clients go crazy for it.
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm saying. I think the money's worth it just in the delivery. I get so many CPA firms that come up to me and they're just like, how do you deliver the product? I need to clean this thing up and make it look good every time. How do I get it from A to Z as fast as possible? And
without spending so many hours that your margins are so thin, you just can't do anything.
That's where it saved us. That was our big thing is we have our accountants and we're always trying to get them to have a larger book of business, right? Like how many clients can you manage? And when each financial statement takes 6 hours, that's very limiting for how many clients we can give a senior, because most people want their financial statements in a very short period of time, right? It's in that second or third week that we have to get all financial statements out. And if financial statements take too long to produce, we're limiting their book, where if we have these things that are just done instantly and we're spending our time reviewing and we're spending our time actually looking at the accuracy of these reports, and then they look, to Adam's word, cute. I mean, it just makes us so much more professional. So I think that's
cute.
Yes, Adam loves cute.
Well, the client likes feeling sophisticated. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
because you give this. Like when my graphic designers give me something that's reach reporting and it's like super good looking and it's clearly like, I mean, this is professionally designed. I'm like, yes, this is cool. Yeah. Like I'm proud of it. I want to show other people it, and that's our clients are no different.
That reminds me of the old days whenever I do the binders. Like I said, I'd have those nice, cool, we got our company colors, had the slick, clear cover at the beginning, had a really thick paper. I felt like $1 million walking in, dropping that thing on the table. I was like, ours looks so much better than everybody else. Like my business card is nicer than yours kind of a thing. This is, but it definitely does speak volumes in terms of delivery, and then just again ease of use. I think whenever we estimated it, I mean a pretty fair number is we think we save about $15,000 a month in just delivery. That's at a cost level. We do 125 or so monthly financials where we're doing that. But I mean, just saving a couple hours each month per person.
Well, and then you can scale, and then you can add 3 more clients. Especially if they're in certain verticals, because now you're using. I mean, that's another thing that's kind of cool about Reach. And I don't want to have a shameless plug in here, but what I really love, and one of the things that absorbs a lot of complexity, is the ability to build one report for one client, and then share it with another client, but have it populate with that client's data. Like now you can build. I mean, say you're building it for CrossFit boxes, and you build one that you've worked really, really hard on. You can now distribute it to the next one and the next one and the next one, and it'll automatically populate with that relative client's own data. I mean, that's huge.
Building off of that though, I was just going to say, Jamie, like what I think is really important too is the combined financials. I don't know if you're going down that road, and the classes. Yep. It's really hard to build a combined financial statement in just Excel or whatever and get everything to line up. It's sometimes same way with the classes, to be able to get something that's really digestible and to be able to do that with such ease. If you are stacking multiple companies together, or if you're having multiple classes, this is a great product for that as well.
I was actually going down the onboarding road, and I'm not sure in that calculation that you threw out there, Adam, that onboarding was even put into that savings, because that's one of the areas I think that we're saving a ton of time is, in onboarding, every time we had a client come in, we had to figure out how to put them into our Excel financial statements, and we had to have a fully dedicated IT guy spending a full week working through that part of the onboarding. Now, like you said, it's plug and play. We connect the financial statements, we connect the forecast, and it's already in there. And so it's more like, again, I talk about this quite often, it's more about reviewing than doing the dirty work, right? Like if you spend 20 hours trying to get numbers put together, you're not going to be willing to spend too many hours doing the review, where if it's just a push of a button, you're willing to spend 10 hours just like really diving into those numbers and making sure they make sense. And so
I think it gets better. Yeah, we become curators at that point.
Exactly.
There was this sweet lady. Her name is Billy Ann. She's a really good friend of ours. And when we were first starting down this path, we were talking about all of the work she had to do to build each report every single month. And she draw it out of QuickBooks. She would put it into Excel, She would build it she would reconnect everything. She would build all of the KPIs. So she'd have little charts and graphs that she would take screenshots of. Then she would drag it over into Microsoft Word, make her comments in Microsoft Word, and then
he's making fun of us, Jamie.
It actually broke my heart because we loved Billy Ann, and we were like, this cannot happen. This absolutely cannot happen. We have to figure out a way for her not to have to do this again next month. And then the beauty is, you, instead of becoming this person that's constantly in this mode of creating a new report, you become a curator. And that's a completely different thing. Now you're dealing with something that is entirely different. And if you decide, like you said, Jamie, to spend 10 hours 1 month, you're now improving this report so dramatically, because the following month it's going to have all of the stuff you did before, plus all of the template, that you built it off of, plus all of the stuff you did last month. And it's now providing that additional level of knowledge, understanding, wisdom, even into the specific needs of the client. The client can say, hey, I'm confused about this, or I'm wondering about this, or could we set the sales goal, or what if COVID really has this effect on us? What's it going to do? You can build that in right into the report, and off you go. And then the next month, it's still there. It's already updated with the new numbers. Boom, you're gold.
Awesome. So we're getting a little close on time here, so I'm just going to throw our email address out there because, again, we're trying to make this podcast as for our listeners. So if you have any topics, if you want to be a guest, anybody that's listening out there, feel free to email us at cpa@summitcpa.net. Again, that email address is cpa@summitcpa.net. We'd love to hear from you. So after throwing that email address out there, Adam, Justin, any final thoughts before we end this podcast?
Yeah, if you want a discount, email us, and we've got to connect. We know the CEO, so let us know. I've got a connection that I can. So for all the listeners out there, let us know. We've got a code. He's been gracious to work with our community.
It is a good discount, so please definitely use it. You'd be crazy.
Yeah, it is. So he's been gracious enough to work with our community and everything that we're trying to create to get people delivering VCFO services. So if you've been stuck, or if you feel like it's been, a tough process, I know it was for us, just trying to vet the right tools. My advice would be just to, give it a shot, get started. For us, Reach was definitely the more user-friendly of the options that we've kind of went down that road in the past.
I'm gonna even spin that around and say I deal with CPA firms all day, every day, with accountants that have 1, 2, 3 clients, to accountants that have hundreds, to accountants that have thousands of clients. And I have been so, Adam, I've never even really told you this, but I have been so impressed at the operation you guys are running. It is one of the most efficient operations that I've seen ever. Most of the time, people are living in the Stone Age. And accounting firms are no different. And there's a lot of them that they could be making so much more money if they would just kind of come into the 21st century a little bit more. And so thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for all you guys are doing for the industry as a whole, and really moving it forward.
Awesome. Yeah. So if any of our listeners feel like they're in the Stone Age, I think Reach is the place to start. Like I said, we've been doing it. We started this year, and to me, we did the cash flow podcast as well. But I think those two changes have helped us in so many ways that we covered in this podcast. So I think this is a great place to start, because it makes you seem much more sophisticated, and it saves you so much time. So those are two huge benefits. So definitely, thanks for joining us, Justin and Adam, and thanks to our listeners. And we'll be back soon with the next podcast.
Hey, thanks, Jamie.
Enjoy this episode? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.